they can't see.
Welcome to Single Tree Nation Show. I'm your host, Charlie Eblin, founder, owner of Single Tree Woodfire Barbecue. Our show is on a mission of growing community through the online storytelling and digital hospitality. We thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show. All right. Man, I am stoked about today. I got the one and only Chef Jensen Cummings. My man, 50 grand, the man, the myth, the legend. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. I'm pumped about this. That intro is nice, man.
Well, thank you, sir.
It makes you feel bona fide when you got that intro. We just did a new intro for Restaurant Idea Factory, and I surprised the fellas with it. They had never heard it before,
right?
And it was cool to do that. And also, this is somebody who's an actor, voice actor, and also in the industry. So it's cool to have her be able to do the voice too. So it's fun.
I was listening to it this morning. It was rock star-ish.
Exactly what I said. I was like, channel rock star meets kind of like ESPN announcer. She was like, perfect, got it.
That is outstanding. Yeah, I loved it, man. I am. We'll get into riff for sure, but you know the drill. You're used to it, man. Just like on Clubhouse every Wednesday and Friday, we start our show off with our amazing guest with giving you the 60 seconds to throw your elevator pitch out there and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah, Jensen Cummings, Denver, Colorado based. Been in the industry 22 plus years myself, but it's all family legacy for me. I'm the fifth consecutive generation of chef, restaurateur. My family, we opened our first restaurant in 1900 in Little Falls, Minnesota, a place called La Fond House. Only ever seen pictures of it. Looks like one of those corner saloons in an old West town where Wyatt Earp would have shot somebody out front, like that deal, right?
Right.
And then great grandparents and grandparents had bars and restaurants in San Francisco. My dad's three younger brothers all own restaurants between California, Iowa, Florida. Even my younger brother, he's a chef. He's sushi is his game. He's out in California, and our dad can't boil an egg. So but all his kids and his brothers are super talented in the game. So yeah, I've done the whole trajectory, right? From dishwasher, punk kid at 17 years old, had no idea what the hell I was going to do with my life. Found the kitchen and my people. And went the trajectory of all the way up to chef owner to burnout to now what do I do as kind of an elder of the industry to kind of empower and educate the future leaders of this industry. And that's kind of where we're at today.
Yeah, man, I love it. You have you inspire me on a daily basis. I look at all of your stuff from a social standpoint from across on the other side of the coast here, but there's a lot to unpack with that. You've done some clips that I would love to get into the mind of Jensen Cummings on.
You and me both, brother. Let's do it.
Weird. It's great. But to start with, man, like you said you found your way in the kitchen when you were young, right? And this is one of the things that I find interesting about all chefs, because I think it's myself included. It took me, I'm 28 or 9 years in the industry now, and I've really just found my niche over the last couple of years, right? So, what when you got into the industry, what did you do to start with? Was it, line cook at the local Chili's?
Sure. I was a dishwasher at my uncle's restaurant, Ames, Iowa. So I went from San Diego, from Southern California, excuse me, to Ames, Iowa. It was a big culture shock, but I was a total fuck up as a kid. Like, like wicked smart, but stupid as hell. Gotcha. And I think the restaurant industry there's a space for us. I was really like not as smart as the smart kids and not as cool as the cool kids. What I told myself was that I was smarter than the cool kids and cooler than smart kids, whatever you have to tell yourself to like get through. And when I graduated high school, I was like, well, what do I do now? One of my uncles who's had restaurants since I think he opened his first restaurant in 1988. He had worked with his older brother, and these are both my dad's younger brothers. They opened their first restaurant in Ames, Iowa, where Iowa State is, in 1984. And so they've been pretty well established there. So he's like, get your ass out of California, come out here to the Midwest. I'll put you to work for a while. You can, hit on college girls, whatever, and just get a little bit of distance, a little perspective. in the first shift, I'm sitting there in the dish pit and there's dishes piled as high as my fucking head. Like, what the hell is this? But there was this energy in there that was just so palpable and was unfortunately in the long term very addictive.
Yeah.
I felt it right away. And so I'm a overachiever, very ambitious. And so I was like, oh, let me be the best at this. And so had a steep trajectory, went from that position to, prep guy to line cook with like, what would they call them? Screw the app guys. I was one of the app guys restaurant, went to the front line, was, on the fry station, grill station. And within a year was at the wheel, running the wheel kind of in that
Yeah.
kitchen. And it's a sports bar, Wallaby's Bar and Grill in Ames, Iowa. So you can imagine like college Kansas home basketball games or Nebraska home football games at the time were just bananas,
Yeah.
unreal. We do 3.5 turns, 600 covers with a 5-man kitchen, right? So that's churning and burning. And I just again love the energy.
Executing flawlessly.
Oh man,
Yeah.
it was wild. Everything made from scratch as well, and they've had some accolades. I think even recently they're number 35 sports bar in the country on USA Today's top 100 list. So they've established themselves pretty well. And everything made from scratch. So I got to like really learn how to develop sauces and how to prep. And we were pattying burgers on a giant old school burger machine that I for sure always thought my hand was going to get chopped off in.
Right.
We were doing like what do they call? Remember the Awesome Blossoms at Outback?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we had the bloomin' onion. So you're hand breading this onion flour, spinning it into a fryer, just like all of that. It was just ridiculous and awesome at the same time.
It's amazing. Can you remember the first sauce that you were taught how to make?
Oh man, the first sauce that so DeBurgo butter. This is like an old school, like
Yeah.
if you don't know like old school Delmonico steakhouse type places,
Right.
it's basically a maitre d' of herb butter,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Herb garlic butter. And the first sauce I remember making and what it took to make a Bermonte basically didn't break, and then how to mount that sauce as well was like something that I learned early on. And fuck, I broke a lot of DeBurgo sauce, man, when I first started out.
I did I was same as you, working in a sports bar, and I we had an executive chef in a big banquet hall. We were in a attached to a hotel, right? So same thing. I worked my way from a dishwasher up, and my executive chef gave me a recipe for an Alfredo and said, "Here you go." And like anybody would, trying to follow a recipe that has never cooked before, I broke the sauce, burnt the pan, the whole 9 yards. I had just gotten a raise and a promotion, and thought I was a badass, and
Shit the
then
bed.
oh yeah, and because of that, I spent the rest of the day in the dish pit and thought that I was gonna lose my job the next day because I broke an Alfredo.
They got you
Yeah.
mopping the freezer and emptying the hot
Right.
water container and getting the bacon stretcher. They're like, I guess
Yeah.
we're at this level.
Oh
Pete.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It's good stuff. So you did that. That was amazing. I'm sure if it's anything like me, that really kind of shaped, and like you said, it's just in kind of an instantaneous passion and love for this industry that a lot of people understand, and a lot of people have no idea why we put ourselves through the punishment we do sometimes. But and then you've grown into, I mean, you're known nationally for your cooking and your chef and your ability. And what took you from that to owning your own and developing
Right.
your own recipes and really, really fully immersing yourself into the culinary scene?
This is interesting because I tell a lot of people like, don't waste your money on culinary school. For me, though, I did go to culinary school after about a year and a half, 2 years of working at the restaurant. Also got to open a restaurant and see the concept development side. So they opened a restaurant called Dublin Bay, which is another place where I really cut my bones. High end kind of Irish tavern was the deal there. And so I got to see what it took to open a restaurant and whiteboard menu development, and kind of was a fly on the wall a little bit and just started to say, oh, this is what you actually do. Like this menu that I'm cooking at Wallabies or that I see at other places, that didn't just come in a can, right?
Right.
Somebody had to create it. So I recognized that there was a developmental and a creative process. And as somebody who's very creative, I was like, oh, how do I do that? And today I think there's a lot of avenues and channels that you can do that. In the year 2000, 2001, 2002, when I was starting out, there wasn't. So culinary school was valuable for me to go and see what that process looked like. And so just excelled very, very quickly, was able to be top of the class and all those kind of things. And it just put me on a path of like, wait, not only do I like doing this, I am pretty good at it now that I'm seeing, myself around the competition, so to speak. So I got a little bit competitive in that nature and said, okay, how do I accelerate this? And then I started to look at what does it mean to be a chef? Because there was no chefs, there was kitchen managers at the places that I was at. I was like, so what does it mean to be a chef? And then there was a pretty pivotal moment. God, I think it was within a couple months of each other of getting introduced to the French Laundry Cookbook.
Okay.
And going, what? That's food? Like you can do that with food? There's no way that's real food, right? That has to be plastic food from a commercial. And then also Kitchen Confidential from Anthony Bourdain came into my line of sight around that time, and that might still be the last full book that I read. I'm on Audible every day, but I can't read to save my life. So those books took me a while to get through. Luckily, they were very captivating books. But that was a moment where I said, okay, this is different. There's something more here. There is a steep trajectory that I can be on. And that's what like really pushed me. Then I'm like, what are the chef-driven type places? I moved to Kansas City, and I work for Debbie Gold, who's a James Beard Award winner. She's been on the show Top Chef Masters, I think is what they call it.
Yep.
And just, somebody who like really, really opened my eyes to what's possible. Somebody I'm still really well connected with, still a mentor to this day. She's got an amazing little restaurant group in Evansville, just north of Chicago, with Amy Morton of the Morton Steakhouse family.
Okay.
And so they've built something really incredible there. We've stayed very connected. Number one thing I learned from her, you should put as much care, passion, attention to detail into family meal as you should for any plate that goes to a guest paying $50 for that plate. I'll never, ever, ever forget that.
That's killer.
And I remember, she was hard. She barely came up to like my chest, but she was a big, big presence in the kitchen in my life, and still is. And I remember her getting on people. I remember the first day I was there, her getting on somebody for family meal. I was like, I'm not fucking this up. Like, I don't care if I'm on this gourmand station right now. This salad I'm about to make for family meal is going to blow some people's minds. Yeah. And so that's something I remember from those early days. And once I was on that path, that I was set. I needed to be somebody who was known for cooking. And I found a couple little, niches, especially within fermentation, and beer and food is really where I got on the national level, where I was winning competitions and representing Denver and Colorado, going to New York to like Brewery Omegang and winning their national hop chef competition, stuff like that, because I had a really unique approach to kind of beer and food and fermentation. So that's kind of where that niche came from. And then now it's interesting. I almost am starting over to a degree this year, Charlie, because I'm going to be out on the road a lot more. Obviously haven't been for the last 2 years, and said no to a lot of in-person events. Even in the last year, I was still like, I don't know. And I was getting invited to a dozen events a year all across the country. And I would go and I would speak, or I'd compete, or I'd do whatever. So I was very well known. Now I'm like, I want to go and speak at different types of places. I want to go inspire the next generation of leaders in our industry, the people that are going to move the industry forward, not just be the chef. And so even says Chef Jensen Cummings, I'm having to grapple with, am I still a chef? If I'm not working 70 hours in a kitchen, am I not a chef anymore? Or am I always a chef? Because once you're coach, you're coach. I'm having to grapple with that every day. And I still don't know the answer to that. I'm just hoping that I can bring enough value to the people in our industry that they don't go, you're full of shit, you're not a chef anymore.
Yeah, I say that on a daily basis myself.
Right.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. And so I mean, you've owned restaurants, you've done all of that, and now you say you want to speak and do inspire in different places. What does that mean? What are you looking to do? Where are you
Yeah.
wanting to speak?
So one of the places I'm most passionate about right now, and you see this, I think, in a big shift in my social media, especially or on TikTok. Jensen Cummings is like my name on there, but actually the moniker is restaurant culture.
Yep.
And I'm really focused on what we call unsung hospitality heroes, the people that it actually takes to uplift such a complicated industry that you mentioned, the love, in equal measure the hate that we have for this industry, and the
Amen.
self-loathing that we have, and how much we have been toxic to ourselves and each other, and like have not had hospitality for ourselves. Self-hospitality is an important thing. So I'm really focused on that. What can we do to shift the culture? What can we do to shift the fact that today, Charlie, restaurants are not a great place to work? And we have to take responsibility. And I've had to tell on myself a lot, and we'll do plenty of that today, I'm sure, of my own culpability in the fact that it is not a 22-year-old kid's fault today, the shape of this industry. We built it. We didn't understand the responsibility that we had as leaders, as industry builders. And we were short term in our thinking. We were transactional. We burned super hot, steep trajectory, which is again why I liked it. But now we're recognizing that we didn't build a sustainable model. We
Right.
didn't build a viable, equitable model that is in fact profitable unless you're not paying people. And so we see a lot of that, like Noma, like what came
Right.
from that,
Yeah.
right? Is they it's not sustainable because now you're going to pay $50,000 a month in additional payroll because you actually have to pay interns, not just have them working 16-hour days making fruit leather beetles to quote unquote build their resume. So where do we go from here? That's a lot of what I'm talking about: the workplace culture, wages,
Hmm.
benefits, education, hiring process. All of those things are really important to me today because it's the connective tissue that allows the next generation, my kids, to be the sixth generation. Can we leave it better than we found it, to have them, with no pressure from me, have the opportunity to be that sixth generation? The answer right now is probably not. I'm hoping the work that we all are doing,
Yeah.
we can shift that landscape pretty quickly.
Yeah. I'm so stoked you brought all that up because
You knew I
that's
would.
I know, and I was just kind of hoping you would just get there and I could jump in.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it's it's you posted something not too long ago about, and this is just one, in my opinion, just a small part of the restaurant industry, but the pay side, right? Which is, I'm telling you, bro, you have got my head spinning for, I mean, for weeks now. I mean, that was what, probably almost a month ago. I think you posted that, wasn't
Are we
it? 3 weeks
talking? I do a
ago.
lot of those. Are we talking the
The
if you're not
the
making $1,000 a week?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
That was a shocking one.
oh man, it's
As an owner, you're like, oh fuck, I can't pay everyone $1,000 a
look.
week.
I'm going to be honest with you, bro. I looked at. I had somebody sitting next to me, and I said, Jensen's lost his fucking mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but then I started thinking about it, right? Initial gut reaction, I was like, holy shit, man, there's no way. How am I, how? So I would love to unpack that a little bit.
Let's do it.
And here's why. Simply because I agree and I disagree,
Me too.
which is hard for me because I agree with you that it's got to be a livable wage. But what can we really put a number on it? And then is the wage really everything that's impacted there? Because you get like I have a 17-year-old kid that works for me. He's in high school. He's not even really full time. He's part time. Great kid. I love him to death. Gabriel, if you're listening, you're the man.
Yeah,
You're
Gabriel.
awesome, right? But how do we go from that to $1,000 a week?
Mm-hmm. So the number one thing for me was that reaction that you had. I was like, what is the number that makes me even saying it uncomfortable?
Yeah.
And so that was the number. And it was a clean round number. There's so much nuance that goes into that. What you need to make sure of is that you put every ounce of effort, of creativity, of innovation into the process of deciding what, in fact, that number is. And if somebody can come to you and go, tell me how you got to that number, and they can see and feel the pain and the motivation that you had to come up with that number, then that's the right number. And I wanted to make sure of that because there's a lot of people right now who are starting to go, look what we're doing. We're doing a tip pool and we're paying people this minimum wage. It's like, that's amazing. And you're just following the law if you're doing a tip pool. So you're
Right.
not actually doing anything creative and innovative. You actually let regulation do that. And I think regulation is valuable that it sets a foundation for something, but I think it also overreaches plenty of times. And I think we undervalue our ability to use that as a trampoline to be able to elevate from there. And I don't think we do enough of that. So a lot of people are like, look what we're doing now. And it's fascinating because for 7 years I've been talking about stop giving me the Instagrammable food porn pic and tell me why I should give doing. And so a lot of that had to do with like hiring posts or posts about your people. I was like, there's other people doing great burgers, great barbecue. That that is border time in our industry's ability to create a food product. What nobody else has is Gabriel. Nobody else is able to take Gabriel and we back. Blink twice.
We're there. I'm trying to see where we're at here. I think I lost. Are you there now? Can you hear me?
I'm here.
Right. Are we back up? Oh, we can't. We can't see. I can see him.
Would he freeze up on his end? I think so.
My back.
I think you're back now.
I can hear you. Got me back?
Oh, I got you now. Yeah,
Hey.
I got you. All right. Hey.
I got the wheels for a second. See, this is great. Local recording. You'll just cut this out.
Right. You just cut it right back out. It'd be fine. Yeah. I got you. I got you left off at. Not everybody has Gabriel.
Yeah. So that was the most important thing for me, was to be able to have people understand the value that we're actually creating, not just the food product, which again can be commoditized. So I think
Right.
if you are showing the effort that you're putting in to acknowledging what your business model actually is, to acknowledging the people that work in your business, that's what I think brings the most inherent value to food, beverage, to hospitality. And so that's what I want to see more of. That's what I think differentiates you and doesn't have you just commoditizing food. That's what puts you in a position to be able to invest in all of the things that really matter, so that $1,000 or 722 or $1,560 is the real number for you. And you have benefits that actually are benefits, that you
Right.
understand the dynamic of what that means, not obligatorily saying we're paying 50% of health, whatever the hell that means. And so that was the important part of this, is creating a real workplace foundation so that you can have, so Gabriel could have, 15 years on the job with you and have a real career path. Like, is
Right.
that a possibility? What does
Yeah.
that look like? So
Yeah.
that's what was really at the impetus of this, of trying to put pressure on ourselves, myself included, to be like, people are going to ask me, hundreds of people have asked me this same question, and my answer has been different 100 times because everybody's situation is different. What's not different is the fact that we haven't historically created a good job environment. We haven't created sustainability when it comes to wages, benefits, culture, education, right? And we've been exposed. And
Yeah.
people don't want to work in restaurants right now. So we have to do something different. And we can't just put a different color lipstick on the same pig.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been very thought provoking over the last couple of weeks since I heard you say it, and I sit back and I think about, okay, well, man, I was, a year ago I'm like, man, I can afford $9-10 an hour, and I had 0 applicants because who wants to work in a 120-degree food truck and or -5 food truck or
Right.
whatever the temperature is outside. It's worse inside that truck.
Mm-hmm.
And and making $10 an hour, and the benefits are you get free barbecue and some pretty cool swag. Those are your benefits. So look, I appreciate you throwing it out there for the simple fact of it's allowed me to be introspective and think about what we're doing, and sit down with my partner and say, okay, hey, look, now that we're growing and now that we're doing more, how can we get bigger in not just
Mm-hmm.
our company, but with our team, right? Because
Yep.
I think what's the average restaurant worker works like 57 days or something before they bounce out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we
I
have
mean, it's
turnover
ridiculous.
rates now that are over 100%. New restaurants
Hmm.
have been over 100% for over a decade. I think if you average out the last decade, you're at about 72% annual turnover rate. And so I just started thinking about the numbers. And I'm not smart enough to do that. So my business partner, Andrew Parr, is the financial and operations guru. I'm the one who asks ridiculous questions or makes ridiculous statements that then turn out to be mostly true. But the devil is in the details of the nuance. So what we can do now is recognize that when I looked at those numbers, I was like, none of this makes sense to me. I was taught all of these numbers of 9% labor or 30% food cost and prime numbers and 10% total manager payroll and 10% occupancy cost. And I did that. Like, I ran full service, high end chef driven restaurants at 11% bottom line. And I've run fast casual units at 1900, starting from nothing.
Yeah.
And so I know how to do that. And I know the toll that it takes and that it's not sustainable, because I'm a fucking badass and I burnt out like I was just, not tough enough. And that's not the reality. The
Right.
reality is of it's built to not be sustainable. We're playing such a finite game and we're not thinking long term. Because we're so good at hospitality, one of the things that you have to do is be in the moment at all times. You need to be very reactionary. You need to be able to bob and weave and ebb and flow to the business. And so we get pretty good at that. What it means is we suck at long-term thinking, at strategy, at planning, right? We can't think past the schedule we just put up for the next week. 2-week schedule? What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Right? And so that came about a lot. And I was like, these numbers don't work. I was really good at running those numbers. So I understood them better than most. And I said, wait a minute, those numbers don't work. So what we did was we stripped it all down. We completely rebuilt an operating budget for a restaurant to invest in the things that we believe you need to invest in. We restructured it. We started to shift around those numbers. We made it what I call flex. Like, not every restaurant is the same. Your restaurant versus, my chef Debbie Gold in Evanston, Chicago, Illinois isn't the same as Sean Walchef in California. The ability to be able to say, these are the numbers that we're trying to move around the chessboard. These are the places where we're investing. These are the things that we believe are paramount to our business. Here's the areas where we can be as flexible as we need to be. So we rebuilt all those numbers. And I started to look at direct labor came up a lot. Direct labor, that's your number one cost.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. What can we do about that? And what happens is we get stuck in this mindset of cut and control. And it's a short-term thinking process. It's a short-term methodology. It's a short-term mindset. I'll give you an example. I'll tell you a story. Anybody who's working in a restaurant knows this story. You have your week schedule. It wasn't as busy as you thought it was going to be. You didn't manage that very well from trying to drive top line revenue or anything that it takes to drive bottom line. You get to that Sunday shift. That manager on that Sunday shift looks at the numbers, goes, oh shit, we're way over on labor. And what do? They cut a host. They cut the bar back. They cut one of the servers, expand sections. They cut 2 cooks. And what happens? You get
You get
busy.
slammed. Yeah.
Everybody has a bad experience.
Yeah.
You lose multiple employees from that interaction. You
Mhm.
lose 2 guests that actually came. The rule of 10 comes into play, and they told 10 people who then told, and then they're on Yelp, and then right. And so it's
Right.
now probably the rule of 100 if we really think
Yeah.
about it. And so, but hey, you hit that 9% labor, you got your bonus, right? And we
Yeah.
tied performance bonuses to these metrics that made us want to game that system versus looking at the investment again in what it means to build a long-term successful business. And that is not the way that the business model has been built. So we just said we had to rebuild the business model. So we're doing that left and right. And every time I interact with a new business owner, I'm like, oh shit, I didn't think about that. How do we incorporate that into the way that we manage their business that's unique to them and allow these tools that we're building to actually have a net positive impact, not put them in the wrong box,
Right.
which is what we did.
Right.
We made the restaurant industry too monolithic.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yep. Yep. Check these boxes, do this, and you'll get your bonus. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah. We
There's
got to keep
a
the mindset, you know?
have you ever heard of Mission Barbecue?
Mission Barbecue. I don't think so.
They're primarily on the East Coast.
Okay.
They've been branching out and they're growing very rapidly. But one of the things that I do love about that company is from the GM down, your bonus structure is not based off of any cost whatsoever. So it's all about driving experience. It's all about driving top line. And by
great.
doing that, they focus on taking care of their employees, taking care of the restaurant when, the wall's falling over, and they're not putting it up with a 2x4 just to get through this period. They're fixing that stuff and they're taking care of their guest, which you take care of the guests, they come back and see you, you can take care of your team, right? So, and not necessarily in that order. You take care of the team, they'll take care of the guests too. So it's good stuff. All right, look, man, time for a pause in the show for one of our random questions. So I ask all my guests at least one random question during the show.
That's all I do on
So,
social is ask stupid questions. I'm all about it.
So this is amazing, right? So if you, Jensen, were to walk into a room or to leave a room, what theme music should be played?
This is an amazing Eye of the Tiger. I'm just going to say that
I
right
love
now.
it.
Eye of the Tiger. This is such great timing. We were literally talking about speaking event stuff. I'm speaking at an event next week of a MIBE conference, MIBE, Make It Better for Everyone.
Okay.
And they're really working in the hospitality industry to kind of heart leadership, right? That servant leadership style approach. They're really working on that. So I'm going to be talking about that, reimagining hiring, talking very specifically about something that we've been able to accomplish of flipping the industry standard of 75% interview no-shows to a model where we have 88% interviews attended. It's wild. Again, there's the shift in approach. Where did it all come from? Asking a bunch of questions. Anyway,
right.
They asked there's walkout music. I was like,
Love
amazing. I was like, there's only 3 walkout songs that I would consider, and it's Eye of the Tiger, probably number 1, and then you have Enter Sandman and Thunderstruck. Those are the like iconic rock walkout songs.
For sure, man. That is outstanding.
Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, that is great. That is great. You mentioned earlier about burning out, right? And it is so easy to do and not realize it. And people people close to me talk about it all the time because, like yourself, it's you get up, you get going, you don't stop, you don't take a day off because there's 9,000 things to do, right? Married, kids, you never see them, they see you in passing and, they come by the restaurant and high five or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So what would you go back to your 20-something-year-old self and say, hey, this is what's going to happen if you don't do this? What is that keeps you from burning out?
You don't have to be the hardest worker to be the highest contributor. That's the way I've been thinking about it as I reflect on those moments. I love effort and commitment. I love it. It fuels me still to this day. Yet we got so obsessed with hard work culture that it was a race, unfortunately, to the bottom, not the top. And I talk about this complete 180 of a mindset. The paradigm I was living in was there's an almost 7-year period where I did not take one single sick day, did not miss a day of work. And Charlie, I mean, you know, like sick, throwing up in a fucking trash can, like sick during that time, which probably net had a negative impact because I am sure I got people sick, right? But in my mind, I was like, I'm going to show up no matter what. I'm going to show up in situations that nobody else would. And I thought that that was true commitment and true leadership. The commitment side, who knows? The leadership side, I realize now, was actually a huge detriment to being a leader. What I was doing was I was saying the only way for you to ascend to my level, to be the leader, to be the chef, executive chef, the chef owner, is for you to mirror my behavior. And what I'm doing, and they saw it, I'm fucking killing myself over here. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I don't want that. You look miserable. And so many people saw that and said, if that is that steep trajectory, I want nothing to do with it. And that is the 180-degree shift that I'm making now. Now I recognize that there's a difference between hard work and high contribution. You can be a high contributor into any system, into any business, into any venture that you have, without being the one that shows that if you don't grind and hustle and bleed out of your eyeballs as hard as the other guy, that you can still be successful. And that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to learn right now and trying to impart is that.
That's killer, man. I think I'm going to replay this last 30 seconds every morning to myself.
Guys, let's clip that piece.
Yeah.
That's gold right there.
Yeah, that is man, that is beautiful. I just like you, I prided myself and still do. You know, if I'm being completely honest, on there's nobody that can outwork me. You know, I used to tell people all the time that, you know, Will Smith says that we can get on a treadmill and I'm going to win, and I'm sure I'm going to win because I just won't quit.
Yeah.
I'll never quit. I'll never stop. I'll kill myself before I lose. Yeah.
And what are we fighting for though, right?
Right.
What is it? What is that goal? And I think that was part of it, is we got so stuck in the minutia of how we do what we do that we forgot about why we do and who we do it for. And so that bigger vision, I think, is really important, because I'm still there too. I'm Mamba mentality all the way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like I still watch that clip of Jay Williams talking about showing up at the gym right. And Kobe's already there sweating. Kobe's there until he's done. He puts up 50 on him and he goes, I got to ask him. And he's like, I saw you there. And I just wanted you to know that I was going to outwork you. And I understand that. And I still grapple with that, because there is strength in some of those moments. And there's also us blindly following that to our doom. And so for example, I get up before anybody. I'm up at 2:30 in the morning. You will see emails from me. Even Sean Walchef, somebody we love, respect, Restaurant Idea Factory, my co-host, you know, is somebody, he's up at 4 in the morning, right? And some days I'll already be like, hey man, blowing up your inbox as soon as you get up, let's get to work, right? And so I'm still competitive. I still have ego. I still am motivated to work hard. I've just reimagined the definition of that and allowed myself the freedoms, because then I also have from 7 to 9, it's dad life. Like I get to hang out with the kids. I get to take them to school. I get to putz around for a while, and maybe I'll send an email, or I'll like your reel on Instagram, right. But I don't have any pressure to do anything. Right. Yeah. And then during the day, a lot of times I will not be knee deep in projects. I'll be reactive to my team. My team needs anything, I'm on it right away. Corey hit me up because all of the extension pieces for Riff go out starting tomorrow. So he needs copy. He needs the double check that the TikTok video is the final clip that we want to go to talk about In and Out coming to the East Coast. Right? Like that's
Right.
So I'm very responsive and reactive because it's my job to support them, not the other way around.
Well, you make good points, and sitting here thinking about it, that's part of the culture,
of course,
that we can change simply by, because who wants to, if we all burn out every day, who wants to be a restaurant owner or GM or director or VP or whatever, chief whatever officer, right?
Yeah, I'll go flip shit on
It
eBay.
looks miserable. Why do we want to do it? Right. That's the Gary V way. Let's go yard sailing, man. But if we make it easy and then teach people how to make it easy, changes culture as well.
Well, this is a fascinating question, because two reasons I don't actually like easy. Number one is our current culture is if it's easy, we don't respect it. So there's a little bit of breaking through some of that. The second is I see this a lot right now where people are like, hey, come work. You don't have to do any of this stuff. And we're already saying that this job is not something you expect it to be, rather than telling people what it in fact is and then being inspired and motivated for that. So sometimes easy can be difficult. What I'm really trying to focus on right now is impactful and simple. That's important.
It's much better wording. Yeah.
Right. And words, is it semantics? Yeah, it probably is semantics. Yet you putting whatever definitions you want on language, on words, I think does matter. So when we're defining that, I don't want to see any more job posts. Let's use that since I kind of alluded to that. I don't want to see more job posts that say, we're so fucking desperate. Please just show up. You don't have to do any work and we'll pay you a bunch of money, because that's defeatist on both sides. Whoever put that job out is hurting so badly that they just need somebody there so that they don't have to do absolutely everything. But they're so scared to set a high expectation so that they will then take further brunt of whatever is needed to actually accomplish. And I have talked to thousands and thousands of people across the restaurant industry, especially at the worker level. That's a lot of my job, is to communicate with the people that most people at my level, whatever that means, don't communicate with, because they want to talk to the decision makers. I want to talk to the dishwashers, right? So you're not going to find many shows where dishwashers have been focal points of it, or content where dishwashers have been focal points of it as much as I have, because I want to know what they believe and think. What do I do to translate it up the ladder and be able to have what they actually believe, what they actually want, what they're actually struggling with, to be seen and heard, and for us to then be able to take action against it. And so I know a lot of 22, 24, 25-year-olds who want to work hard. They want to put in commitment and effort into something that they believe in. We're just not giving them something to believe in. And that's a big, big problem. We've lost some of the sense of belonging that maybe got us into the industry.
Yeah.
We didn't have a lot of choices, though. See, the kids these days aren't entitled. To Gary V's point, they got options, man. They can do a lot of different stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody goes into their career life at 16, 17, 18 as an investment banker. A lot of us go into the restaurant industry, yet we stay and we keep them at a 16, 17, 18-year-old level, and there is no growth trajectory for them. And so they go, well, all I've seen is how hard it is to work in restaurants. There's no upward mobility. There's no advantages to that. Why would I do that? Why would parents have their kids go and have the summer restaurant job anymore? To your point, why don't they just go?
My 16-year-old doesn't work for me. And he flat out told me, he said, look, I can make the same money working right down the street at the golf course where I don't have to do shit.
That's tough to hear too, I bet.
Oh, dude, it broke my heart. Yeah. I mean, but it's, he's 16. He's trying to figure it out. He has no desire to be anywhere near a restaurant. The only thing he likes in a restaurant is the steaks they serve.
Yeah.
He's not, he did not get that gene from me. Now my other two, I'm trying to get them to get their education before they make the decision to go to restaurants. But yeah, I mean, look, when you're a kid now and you can have a couple of million followers on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever, YouTube, and I mean, look at Mr. Beast, right? I mean, he's
He's an extreme example. Yeah.
but he's doing well.
Yeah, a little bit.
So
You can just flippantly turn down $1 billion for your YouTube channel. I think you did. I think
you did all right. Yeah. It's good stuff, man. Yeah, it's good stuff. All right. So I do got to get your take on In-N-Out before we go any further. And it's probably a little bit different. I'm like you and everybody else. I've seen it. I've personally never had In-N-Out, never been to one because I've been on the East Coast most of my life.
Sure.
And when I've traveled, I'm not really into going to fast food places to, I want to have nice meals. So, one, what's the big deal? I know you've grown up on In-N-Out. So what's the big deal about these fries and the animal something or another? And
the fuck are they doing at In-N-Out?
Yeah. Like what the hell is going on over there?
So nothing ever lives up to the hype. There's no way that that's possible. It's so fascinating how it's become so cult. And then it also became this, it's like, now we don't have as much East Coast, West Coast rap battle. Now we have the East Coast, West Coast food battle, right? We're in that culture. So here's the thing about In-N-Out is, and again, I grew up on it, so I am 100% biased. They are one of the most fascinating businesses I've ever seen in food. And to me, if you're not paying attention to In-N-Out because you think the fries are garbage, you're missing the point of what In-N-Out can represent to somebody in the restaurant industry. I've seen posts like this. For example, I'm in Colorado now, grew up in California. When they came to Colorado, Sean is going to talk about this in this clip, 14-hour lines. The Aurora police was telling people, do not come. Their Instagram page, Twitter page saying, do not come. People are backed up onto the highway. All right. What
Holy
happened? More
shit.
people came. And then the next day and the next day and the next day. Did those people, did their $7 burger live up to 14 hours? No fucking way. Of course that did not live up to that. So you have to separate that. You have to separate the business, the food, and the hype.
Yep.
The hype is the hype. I can't do anything about that. The business, one of the best you'll ever see. First ever drive-through in the country. The secret menu. Prolific. They still have 15 total items on their menu, yet there's hundreds and hundreds of ways that you can make it your own, which is fascinating. But you have to know cleanest restaurants you'll probably ever go into. We just went to one, there was 26 people working. 26 people.
What kind of footprint?
In about 3,500 square foot.
So not a big place.
4,000. Yeah. Not a big place. Wow. Drive-through. You see now the people out at the drive-through taking your order, so it's a little bit more personalized. First to do that as well. To hire on character and attributes versus skills. First to do that. I remember in high school that was like, are you charming enough to get a job at In-N-Out? Right? And I was like, shit, no, I'm a dirtbag. I can't get a job at In-N-Out. Right? They also open what's called spread houses. And they will centralize production of their sauce. A whole bunch of the ingredients need to be sourced from a certain distance, and then they will open a radius around that area so that their product only travels a certain distance to get to each location. They do $4.5 million per location. Or McDonald's, Sean said this, I think 2.9. So the number that they can do out of those spaces is absolutely ridiculous. So all of these things are like, I want to pay attention, learn from them. Managers can make $250,000. Benefits are strong and have been far before that was something that you even needed to do at the corporate fast food level. So they've been at the forefront of all of those.
Sorry, yeah, they just processed in my head. A store level manager can make $250,000 a year.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep. It's family owned and has been ever since day one. They have 380 locations. They're growing slow, which builds up the hype of like, you can't get it in your state.
Yeah.
So they have been very thoughtful and creative in so many ways that I think independent operators can learn from. Unfortunately, what I saw mostly from so many of my contemporaries here in Colorado when they opened was like, their burger's not that good. Go to your local burger place. You're killing local business by supporting In-N-Out. And I was like, guys, the amount of time and effort that you're putting into throwing shade at a company that you don't actually know much about, you should spend inventing the ideas, the ways, the approach, the philosophy, the hospitality, the food product, the style of service, the technology that has you be the place that gets 14-hour waits, that you somehow, be it merited or just hype, have earned that. Spend all of your time and effort doing that, because that is going to get you there. That Facebook post is going to have nobody come and support your business. And so that is a big mindset shift. So that's the business side of it. The sourcing that they do on their ingredients is truly top notch. They're purchasing at a high level quality. The consistency of the product is ridiculous. Like, I've been hundreds and hundreds of times. I can think of 2 times where I've had a subpar experience. They're so consistent because they keep it so simple.
Yeah.
I've been 7 or 8 times and I've had 2 bad experiences there. And then that's the next thing. You cannot compare them to Shake Shack. That's what I see a lot right now. Shake Shack is a fast casual brand that is $18 for your order versus a fast food brand that's $10 for your order. They're not apples to apples. You can compare them to Sonic. You can compare them to Culver's, to McDonald's. That's the game that they're actually in. Is Shake Shack better than In-N-Out? Yep, it sure is. Especially that fried chicken sandwich. And then the French fries. I'll end with this. The French fries. If you say they suck, I will not disagree with you in any way, shape, or form. That's exactly what Kyle had to say. They're back there. I'd love to go teach them a lesson to be able to just elevate it ever so slightly. They cut their own potatoes, so I respect that highly. Whereas, Shake Shack even gets frozen, pre-bought crinkle fries. So I respect the game that they're trying to play. They just don't do a multi-blanch process. So you get this very like too much potatoy with a slightly cardboardy thing. I completely understand it, which is why you can ask for different things. I get mine well done animal style, which means it's got grilled onions, it's got the cheese, and it's got their kind of Thousand Island spread on it. Yeah. And then I get the pepperoncinis with that, the little hot peppers that they have as well. That to me is a good experience. But you get straight up the French fries, I can completely understand. I grew up on them. So just like people from the East Coast would be like White Castle, I was like, that's the worst burger I've maybe ever had. But I understand that's what you grew up on. Yeah. So respect.
I grew up on Wendy's. We would go and I'd get a junior bacon cheeseburger, fries, and a Frosty. And I guess it's been a decade now since Wendy's changed their fries, but ever since they changed their fries, now their fries are awful. I hate their fries. I don't eat them. Every time I get them, I forget, and I'm like, shit, these fucking suck. Then I can just eat the cheeseburger.
My boys like the Frosties.
Oh yeah, gotta love a Frosty. Classic. All right, man. Last random question of the day, and we will move on. But so I love this question simply because it kind of gives me a little bit of an insight into your mind. So if you were to, I would probably say your younger self would have dinner with any chef, but now where you're at today, being a little bit larger in the industry and more kind of restaurant and hospitality industry wide. So if you could go and have dinner, chop it up, and have a beer with anybody in the hospitality industry, who would it be, and what would you want to learn from them?
Well, this is interesting because I think about this a lot of times, this kind of question in living and not living, right? Because I think the way that you would have that dinner and the conversation would be very, very different, obviously, because the context of somebody living or not. We mentioned him earlier. He's definitely somebody on the list. Gary Vee right?
Yep.
Who's connected to our industry through the wine side, through Resi,
Yep.
things like that. Is just somebody who like riffs on ideas as quickly as I do. I want to be in the moment to be able to have true interaction, right? I'm not a good writer, I'm a great orator. And the reason is because like I need the banter. It helps me get to where I'm going more quickly. So I like the way that he goes about that. And I'd want to learn kind of how you're able to take perspective from outside the restaurant industry and apply it to the restaurant industry. It's something I've been working really hard on and struggle with sometimes. I'm like, how do I take something that Google is doing, or you talk about Nike, how can I take something that they're doing and then say, wait a minute, I see the connective tissue to make that about the restaurant industry. That's probably who I'd talk to about what's what. I think if somebody passed away recently, Paul Bocuse, in recent years, I should say, is somebody I'd be fascinated to eat with, because I think he was maybe the best ever at recognizing untapped talent and potential. And it started with, the way that he would have somebody stage where he'd just say, cook me an egg. And he learned everything he needed to know from how somebody cooked an egg. And I'm fascinated in the simplicity, in the way in which we allow people to show what they believe in, what they know, what they're capable of, where they are currently and where they could potentially go is fascinating to me. I had something called the chive test, which literally in the last 2 weeks, people have like brought back to me. Hundreds and hundreds, probably close to 1,000, maybe over 1,000 people have taken the chive test. And it was slicing chives, thin chives, and presenting it to me. And it was nothing about the chives. It was like, did you sharpen your knife? Did you clean your cutting board? Did you squeeze the chives so tight because you were trying to manipulate and control them? Did you ask the goal of the chive test? And anybody who passed the chive test would get hired on the spot, and they would get paid whatever they were asking for. And in 8-9 years that I did it, 1,000 people took it. 2 people ever truly passed it. But what it allowed for was, I didn't say you didn't pass. I said, here's where you're at. And now I know where we can go. And so it was a way for them to be acknowledged from where they're at and get feedback, which is something that I think kids these days still and also want. We just are shit at delivering that feedback because we were used to getting feedback by getting a plate thrown at our head. So Paul Bocuse, I think, would really help me even take that approach even further, because hearing him talk about young cooks was one of the most fascinating things I've ever heard. And I never got a chance to meet him.
That's outstanding. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's real good stuff. Well, Jensen, man, I can't thank you enough for joining us today, man.
Honor.
This has been absolutely outstanding. I always love talking to you, and when you can join us in our clubhouse rooms on Wednesdays and Fridays at noon is just absolutely amazing. And for anybody that's listening, please join us. We meet every Wednesday and Friday at noon Central Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, and 1 p.m. Eastern. So you guys come and join us. But Chef, if people are looking to get a hold of you and pick your brain for things, how do they do that?
Man, all the socials, right?
Right.
Jensen Cummings, Chef Jensen Cummings, or Best Served Podcasts are kind of the places we've been putting a lot of content on. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Those are like the 5 platforms we really want to interact on. And now, the new show, Restaurant Idea Factory, just got kicked off a couple weeks ago, and we've been really active there on social. Especially, I think maybe this is the place. Go to restaurantideafactory.com. Super simple, one page. We just want to basically like get to know what people in the industry want to know. And so there's a form at the bottom that says like submit a topic. So we've had people submitting topics because I'm very interested in like, what pain are you facing right now? What joy are you like ascending to? So even that, the question of $1,000 a week in pay, like if that's something that's of interest and a need that you have, there's a place for you to be able to share a headline with us or share a topic with us, and we will riff on that on the show, which is super cool. So we've already gotten to do that a couple times, and at least people are like, okay, these guys give a shit about what's happening in our world, and they'll joke about In and Out, and they'll talk about the bear or the menu and our Hollywood segments. And
Waffle
we'll
House.
talk about reviews. We'll talk about guest experience. We'll talk about Andrew Tate thanking a chef. Like, we run the gamut of what is happening in the ether in this moment. And it's been super fun. So those are a couple of places to connect.
It's an amazing show, man. I can't wait to see every single episode you guys do. It's
That's right. Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Mountain. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube under Restaurant Idea Factory. That's the best place to get the full kind of 1 hour shows. And then we do all that extension clip content.
Are you gonna put it on podcast form with Apple and all that stuff too?
Yep,
right?
We're on Anchor, so it's gonna be on Anchor. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple, Google, all of the platforms. So it's on audio only as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, man, hey, I can't thank you enough. This has been a blast. I got to go back and cook more barbecue now. But
I expect you to tag me on a reel today. I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure we'll do something. You know, it may not be today, probably tomorrow, but we'll definitely get you going for sure. Thank you very much. Y'all please like, share, subscribe, and until next week, we'll see you then.